It really goes into great detail and a breakdown of this almost holistic view of the AI landscape.
As a good economist, he did a predictive analysis of the advances in artificial intelligence based on three primary drivers.
These has big implications of what's just coming out now of, yes, your business, but everything else.
The government's going to go, oh, this is a very big deal because we'll now have been at this next awakening level.
The danger from AI will come from how humans use it.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is June 20th, 2024, and this is the Daily AI Show Live, and today we'll be breaking down Leopold Aschenbrenner's Situational Awareness paper, and there is a ton to talk about here, more than I knew we had bit off when we said we were going to do this show. I'll be the first to admit it. I just had a not layover, but it's kind of the way it worked out. My flight yesterday, I was in Austin. I joined the show yesterday from the Austin hotel, much more stable camera today. And I had this long period where I was done working with my client, but it was like, they were like, oh, you meet us at the bar, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then I thought it'd be an issue with my flight. So I just went to the airport, but basically 4 hours. Then my plane got delayed because of the weather out there in Texas. So I had a very, very long self-imposed layover that wasn't a layover. But I knew that I wanted to be prepared for today's show. So I said, I will read Situational Awareness. Cut to 3 hours later, after reading, or 4 hours later, after reading every single word of it, I said, oh, this is a book. I misunderstood. I think somebody had said it's like 165 pages, but I honestly was thinking like, 165 internet pages, not real pages. But the reality is, I think this was about as long as Co-Intelligence. I think it took me longer to read this than it did Co-Intelligence by, I almost said Eli, Ethan Malik, end to end. So I don't know if you guys came into it. I guess maybe we'll start there and talk about who Leopold is and all that. But did you guys did you understand the sheer volume and breadth of situational awareness before you dug in? Did you already know what you were getting into, or were you like me and kind of got shocked a little bit?
I didn't know how authoritative and scholarly this work was. And that's the impressive part of this. And then when you guys explain who Leopold really is, and what his accomplishments are, by the way, he's 22 years old. Yeah, exactly. Okay. And you'll hear about his accomplishments. But, when you put those two things together, what we're reading here is someone at the heart of AI who is a genius and a most accomplished scholar in this realm from the standpoint of economics. So that's my takeaway on it.
We'll talk about Leopold in a second. I want to hear what Beth and Jyunmi are about to say, but you're Andy, he says in the paper at some point, by sheer happenstance or otherwise, I am either order of magnitude directly related to, meaning as in working, right, one order of separation or 1 degree of separation away from every person that would be probably involved in what he calls the project. And we'll get into that in a second. He did not come across as bragging. That's just fact. That's just fact. Like you said, he's 22. So Beth, where did you, what was your take before you got into this? Did you know what you were getting into, or was this like sort of a shocker like it was for me?
So I knew the content of what I was getting into, but no, I didn't know the density. And I did a little bit of both. I did a little bit of reading the work on the web, and I deep dived into Duarkesh's interview with him, which is 4.5 hours. Holy crap. So listen to us. You don't have to listen to that. Then you can go listen to that because you'll want to. But yeah, so I had some sense of it, but the depth and the scholarliness that Andy was talking about, yeah, that was a surprise. How about you, Jyunmi?
Yeah, I was going to say Jyunmi and then Karl. Karl joined us as well. We'll go around the horn here. By the way, did I say Beth, Jyunmi, Karl, Andy, and I'm Brian? Did I say who was here today, or did I just get in? See, that's what happened with today's show. I was saying this to Andy right before we went live. I said, I'm nervous about this show. I'm never nervous about this show. Never. Today, I said I was nervous. And he said, why? I said, because it's so big. The ideas, the whole thing is so big that I worry that we're gonna snap our fingers. 40 minutes is gonna go by, and there'll be nothing cohesive will have come out of it. Just a bunch of what I feel like is a bunch of gibberish rolling around in my brain because I just read it yesterday and I haven't been able to process it. But anyway, Jyunmi, what was your take when you first sort of got into this?
Well, that's a good point that you bring up, and hopefully we can, in 40 minutes, I think all we can do is really give a decent overview.
Yeah.
Like everyone's been saying, it is very dense material. And it really goes into great detail and a breakdown of this almost holistic view of the AI landscape. And so my first impressions is I knew it was going to be a big paper, going in. I didn't really know who Leopold was. And that was the thing that most surprised me. It's like, okay, so learning about the author and learning why this is important and why is everybody talking about this. And so I guess that's the surprising part, but the information is fantastic. There's also a little bit of validation in my own thoughts going, oh, okay, cool. A person smarter than me and who's directly involved in those circles has pointed these things out, and like, yes, awesome. Did I have as clear a view of everything as he points out? Absolutely not. There is plenty of information in here that was like kind of sideswiped me a little bit. And I'm glad we're taking this opportunity. And if we're going to do the paper justice and do a proper breakdown and review, we'll probably have to do at least another episode.
I will put this out there. Now, we don't have any plans for this. So this is like me literally talking to you guys. I only mentioned it once in Slack last night. And Aaron, who is in Perth, so he's 12 hours difference, was up, right? It was today for him, meaning it was Thursday. And I was like, I don't know, Aaron. I think this needs to be like its own mini series. Now, we don't have any plans for that, but I legit think we could branch off and go, okay, hold on. We're going to keep doing our shows. We're just going to keep doing interviews. We're also going to do a 9-part series on the situation. And we could easily, without the constructs of how long an episode should be, we could just long form break that down. So if that sounds interesting to anybody, by the way, listening to this, let us know. I would totally be game. I think a few of us would. So we obviously aren't going to do that today. Today is more about like what our perception was. What did we get out of it? How do we think it impacts business? All that, because you can certainly go, and I highly recommend everybody to go read it on their own. But before we get there and we get into that, Karl, last one, the question was, I was saying before I think you joined, I was not aware. I was blithely ignorant to the depth of this paper. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't really know what I was getting into. I was saying I was at the Austin airport. And so I had multiple hours of nothing yesterday, which was actually turned out to be perfect because I could just sit down and read this word for word. I did not use a Perplexity. I didn't use a ChatGPT. I old schooled it, right? I started at the first word and I read it to the end, to the last word, and took my time with it and took breaks and walked around the airport as I had my own internal monologue. So did you know what you were sort of getting into as you got this? What was your perception before like preparing for this particular show?
So I remember I watched Leopold's interview a couple of times. There's like short snippets, but then the longer one. So I watched that, and then I like you, I used Perplexity to like, okay, just give me I need the gist of this.
Yeah.
And then, but for me, I looked at the individual parts that kind of jumped out at me, and it was more about national security, and it becomes a race. And it's funny because of what Ilya Sutskever's new Superintelligence Inc. yesterday, right? It's like he just started that. And I remember one of the points was, we'll have superintelligence. It depends on, I guess, the definition of what superintelligence will mean by 2025, 2026. Although you do say it's like AGI will be coming at the end of the decade. So obviously, I think superintelligence is different than AGI, although I would think it's reversed, where superintelligence would be things that are way smarter than human intelligence. So, but the national security one was more of like, obviously the hot topic that kind of got me. It's like, are we competing? And I don't know Canadian politics, but American politics, it's such an easy, I know the lobbyists are going to use this example, and they're just going to say, well, if you do any type of regulation, no, China's not going to do it. Russia's not going to do it. So why would we want to slow the pace at all? I think that's enough for 60-70% of the politicians in Washington to be like, yeah, we'll token regulation it, get some executive orders there. Yeah, we'll meet some people, we'll talk, but no, it's there. I just don't think that, especially if one politician actually gets in and that argument comes to fold, I was like, no, this thing is going full steam ahead, and I think like everything is going to go as fast as they can. And we just don't know what the other countries are doing. And then, sorry to the EU, who, you know, put out the European, like their act. It's like the meme and the jokes are going to be true. You've regulated yourself out of the race. Might as well sit in the sidelines and cheer for whoever wins, I guess.
And I think that's a good pivot real quick, because we didn't really introduce Leopold a little bit. Andy, you could probably add some more here as well, or anybody else in the background for him. But I threw his picture up on the screen if you want to see what he looks like. As Andy mentioned, he's 22 years old. I believe at the beginning of the podcast that the host said that he graduated valedictorian at 19 at Columbia. I think I'm right on that one. So clearly no slouch. He has also started a investment firm, I believe it is. I found an investment firm, correct, focused on AGI. It's called For Our Prosperity, and that's actually a website that he has. I have it up on the screen right now. So forourprosperity.com, with other anchor investments from Patrick Colson, John Colson, Nat Freeman, and Daniel Gross. He talks about before that he worked at OpenAI and the super alignment team, which now is dissolved, and there's a lot of news about that. He says, in a past life, I did research on economic growth at Oxford's Global Priorities Institute. Oh, here it is. I graduated as a valedictorian from Columbia at age 19. Sorry, I thought that was on a different page. I originally hail from Germany and now live in the great city of San Francisco, California. My aspiration is to secure the blessings of liberty for our prosperity. I'm interested in a pretty eclectic mix of things, from First Amendment law to German history to topology, though I'm pretty focused on AI these days, which I think is a nice, fun understatement to start the conversation. And if you want to see kind of like what he has on his, which isn't much on LinkedIn, he's definitely much more on Twitter or X. If you want to go follow him, that's where you're going to find a lot more of his content, as well as the podcast and things like that. But you can see a little bit of his background here as well, from research affiliate and future funds and things like that. Again, he's not that old, so most of this is from only several years back, which is really, really interesting. So I wanted to share that first, just so we had a kind of idea of like, who are we talking about? I think the first question I had.
In addition to that, so the part of him that does not show up in his CV is that his parents, that the World War II was fairly close for him, the effects of World War II, which is, again, part of this perspective that he's bringing to it. His parents are from the East Germany and West Germany, right? So, like, they lived in that. And his grandmother, who raised him for a little while, was alive during Nazi Germany, right? So, and then Germany handles their past a little more directly than the U.S. handles our past, so they're a little more informed about things that have happened in their more immediate past. So that is also a piece that comes into this that isn't reflected in his accomplishments. I just want to highlight that.
I think that's a huge call. I didn't really realize that as much, but now I'm so glad you said that, Beth, because now it makes me even. This is great, right? Because this makes me even see it through even a slightly different lens. He talks a lot. He mostly talks about China, but he talks about, like, let's call it our axis of evil. What was it Bush used to call it? The axis of evil. Certain people were on that list or whatever. They're Iran's and China and North Korea and so on and so forth. And, politically, whoever you decide or not decide to put on the list, the point is clear, which is, a big part of this situational awareness. And what I was going to say about what Karl said is, situational awareness is just what Karl was saying, or any part of the term comes from. There's only so many people that he feels, and his reasoning for writing this paper, who have actual situational awareness. In fact, understand the complexity and the how vast this potential AI can be, right? Where it's going to it. Also, Jyunmi, you brought this up, and I think it's something we should definitely talk about. Is I will tell you, because of mainstream media, because of whatever, I sort of view this AGI as this end goal. And I will tell you that one of the biggest things I brought out of this paper is that AGI, however you might want to define that, and there's several different ways to do that, is really just like a stepping stone towards this larger super intelligence. And that AGI, when he's like, oh, AGI potentially, if you just follow the charts, if you follow the graphs and the extrapolation, that's where his 2027 prediction comes out to. And he's like, that's not a leap. I'm literally just looking at where our order of magnitudes. And he talks a lot about that in there. I'm just looking at where we came from GPT 2 to 4 and saying, hey, if we're at 4, this is where I think we can be if we were to get to 2027, right? But it's just this idea that he doesn't stop at AGI. It's like, oh, we have AGI. No. In fact, he's talking about hundreds, if not thousands of orders of intelligence, or maybe orders of, but times intelligence above and beyond that, which was really, really mind-opening for me about where this potentially is going to go. And in fact, in the paper, it's a situational awareness, the decade ahead. So you can kind of see where he's looking at. He's looking at the next 10 years. He's looking at the 2030s and saying that fundamentally everything will be different than what we know today. Anyway, that was a big opener for me. Obviously, a lot about the national security, what I want to get to. Yeah, let me throw it back over to you guys, because honestly, this is my problem. I don't even know where to start with this, really. There's so much different ideas in here, but the AGI one was definitely one that was eye-opening for sure.
Yeah, you talk about this when you're talking about beyond AGI, and he's talking about that intelligence explosion, otherwise sometimes called singularity, and this is where we skirt some of the science fiction. And he makes a point that in this next 10 years, it's not science fiction. It's completely plausible. And
right.
And that's, I think that's a good place to view what he's talking about as this isn't the far-flung future. These concepts and what potentially he sees is coming out in the next few years that's reality. Follow the data, like you said, right? Follow those charts. And so I think if anything, right, and calls it situational awareness, it's, apropos, the overall intent of the paper, or the essence that I got was, here is all the data that you need. Here's all the information you need to help inform you of these extreme large changes that are going to be happening, right? And whether it's positive or negative is how we approach it. And that's what I get. That's what I take, overall take from the paper is, hey, if you're not aware of these things, look at this. And here is the information that supports, my conclusions. So start thinking, start paying attention, start being aware.
And just to add on to that, so we're talking about Leopold's paper. In mid-April, Darius Amodei of Anthropic did a podcast interview with Ezra Klein. Ezra Klein interviewed Darius Amodei. And he made very similar predictions in terms of the timeline that we're looking at in that scaling, right? So half an order of magnitude about every 6 months in terms of leap in ability, and also in terms of leap of cost and compute needed. So those things are married, right? So if you're going to leap, you then need instead of 1 gigawatt, or they talk about gigawatts and dollars, and I don't have the perfect math between them, but 10 gigawatts is decent and doable. 100 gigawatts is maybe more needs more intention to be able to do it, and those are the next series of things. But what struck me about this was that Darius Amodei actually is also seeing seem to be in agreement about the most immediate next levels that we're going to hit, and then they diverge in what that means, right? What are going to be the next things that are going to happen in relation to that? And Darius Amodei said, took a sort of backseat in some ways and said, I'm not going to try to predict that. And Leopold is like, sure, I'm totally going to try to predict that because it's important for us to have some concrete things.
And importantly, he says, surely towards the end of the paper, he says, look, I clearly will miss on many different parts of this. I am not saying this is absolute or that I believe this is the only path. He talks at length about the roadblocks ahead from all different angles. Most of the time, he's an optimist. He says he's an optimist, and that he thinks, based on what he knows, his experience, which is extremely valuable, him both being in San Francisco. He talks often about the San Francisco parties and how much information is transferred there. That's a whole other conversation. But just if you're in the conversations, if he's just talking about the perspective he has, but also obviously saying, look, there are several roadblocks. He's just optimistic that because of compute, because of AI's ability to help itself get to the next level, that the way I understand it, this is my perception, is that yes, we're going to run into these roadblocks. Yes, we might run out of data, but there might be solutions there with synthetic data that make it very possible. Then AI will have a part to play in that. So it's almost like, AI is going to, we can reasonably see the next 12 months or 24 months that we feel a lot more comfortable about. And that will have a rolling effect, as it has, to unlock what we need to get to that next step. And I saw that theme a lot in this paper was, sure, we're going to run into this most likely, but at that time, our compute abilities, our efficiencies in algorithms, and so on and so forth will be also at this level. We're not going to stop and have today's abilities 24 months from now. So what does that unlock for us? Does that allow us to now get past it? And I it was a very compelling argument, whether you believe it or not, or you have there's many people who have different opinions of it. I'm not like all in on this camp, but to Andy's point, I thought it was very, very well written, and it stops short of any absolutes or anything. It makes a lot of comparisons and talks a lot about the Manhattan Project. And towards the back end of the paper, chapter or part, let's call it 4, part 4, is called The Project. And I honestly didn't know what that was until he talked about it. But basically what his point is, I'll try to summarize this, and then you guys correct me where you think I messed this up. But in very short form, startups are great at what startups do. And they can do things that are untangled by government and things like that. And a lot of the advancements in AI probably do need to start in the startup world because of their abilities and how quickly they can evolve and stuff. However, he sees us as moving quickly to a 2027, 2028, 2029 timeframe, where what he's worried about is the government's going to go, oh, this is a very big deal because we'll now have been at this next awakening level. And the government's going to get scared and say, okay, hold on, we need a Manhattan Project level of security and safety and security and security for national awareness, national protection, right? Against what might be done. And the point he brings up is, hey, whoever was just saying, Karl was saying, I think, hey, China ain't going to care about, environmental regulations if it means the race to $1 trillion cluster. And China's like, what do we have to, coal mining and fracking and how many people it takes to get there? Great. And what he's worried about is that right now in San Francisco, this stuff is being traded freely. And so when you get to a point of the weights that are necessary at a superintelligent AGI, you do not, China or some other actor, does not have to go through all the work. They just need the weights of the model. So if they have built the infrastructure, if they have the compute ability, and we're basically a sieve, us and the EU and everybody else, we're just freely giving it out there, and China already knows it. China doesn't have to do and build and go through all the steps. They can simply wait, get the information because it's not bogged down by security and safety regulations like a Manhattan Project, and simply implement the weights on the back end, and they will have already beaten us on the infrastructure side. Do you guys, do you feel like I got that close? That's how I read it.
One thing that's funny is that when you mention all that stuff, the first person I keep thinking about is Jan LeCun, and he's like, none of that matters because none of the things that we're going to be producing is going to be smart enough or advanced enough to do anything crazy that we're planning to do. And I'm assuming that he would think Leopold's paper and so on. It's like, again, back to always his points, like we're not going to be, AI is not going to be LLMs, or anything that we have now is not going to be even remotely as dangerous, only as dangerous as we make it if we overtly try to make it that way. And so when Leopold says Manhattan Project, like Kuhn says, yeah, you're crazy. That's like, yeah, we're talking not even splitting the atom. Like, I think it's very interesting where those two camps are at and what one would think versus one would, would you say that Leopold would be a doomer and like try? And I don't think he is, but then I think he's trying to advocate for something else. But again, the view is, oh, AI is inherently dangerous versus Jan LeCun's like, it's not. So
I think there. Thanks, Karl. So in terms of Leopold saying that Leopold isn't saying that AI is inherently dangerous. Like, actually, he and Jan LeCun are saying the same thing, that the danger from AI will come from how humans use it. Jan LeCun is just saying, I'm not sure humans are going to use it that way. And Leopold is like, I think we should talk about it. Like, it's a definite possibility. That's a bad interpretation of that, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We shouldn't wait to figure out, like, we shouldn't wait to get to a point where it is serious. He's actually saying, hey, I think we have a brief period here. He calls it the middle ground or the middle something. I can't remember the term he uses. This middle period where we're not quite there. We're not at 27, 28, 29, but we can reasonably predict based on current trends and patterns on compute and algorithmic efficiencies and other things that he clearly points out there to say, should we wait to wake up in 27, 28, or 29? Or should we be sounding the alarm today to say, hey, maybe we want to put just a little bit more security? I don't think we're talking building the base in the desert, if you watched Oppenheimer and saw that whole story yet. But I definitely agree with him that maybe we shouldn't be talking at bro parties in San Francisco and freely talking about the things that are happening, and is akin to putting a USB drive into a computer to take the information that's necessary. And to his point, it doesn't even matter right now because any of the bad actors already have all of it. Just assume it's an open conversation web at this point. And listen, I have to agree with that. Why would we want to wait 2, 3, 4 years to figure out this is something we should have started taking seriously 3 years ago, meaning today?
So who's going to be talking about it though? Like, that's the thing. Is like, if you talk to any politician, they're barely up to speed on half of what
exactly
people know. So even if he's raising it right now, who is going to take that mantle up? I think it was I can't remember which podcast it was. Could be Paul Reitzer's one where they're talking about like, I think it was like, what was it, 1967, something about going to the moon, and the government's put so much money into it. And it's like, everybody, like, few people think that that's where the situation is now, but I don't think you're going to get that type of backing. I just don't see government be like, yeah, I'm going to put 7 trillion or $2 trillion into AI. That would be in right now. And even if you have a political environment that was in lockstep, it'd be very, very difficult to pass a bill that is outside of defense. So unless you feed it into defense,
which he talks about,
right? Outside of defense, I don't see any reason why you like the American government and the people would stomach that much into a technology that half the people don't even get, don't even use, don't even understand, and just like are putting their head down on it. It's very difficult.
That's the point, right? The point is they're not aware, and I think this paper is his attempt to at least start that conversation. And we are in the business of AI awareness, right? AI literacy. So us, Karl, it's us. It's all on us, Karl. You represent all of Canada. We represent all of the United States.
It won't matter. I don't get anything anyway. So what am I gonna talk about? Oh, we don't get. We'll get 7 months. Like, okay, well, thanks, fantastic.
Well, so like comparing it to the Manhattan Project wasn't like a fully informed authorization from all of Congress, right? Like,
yeah, but you blew up like once something blew. Like I think like, but there was a war that preceded it. There was a reason why people were actually creating it. It wasn't just like, oh, well, we're gonna start doing this. It's like, well, no. How do we win the war against Japan? How do we win the war? Like, wasn't that the impetus to actually get something moving? Not, hey, it's a bunch of research. Let's, we want to do this and we want to benefit humanity. No, we want to destroy people so we can win the war. So we don't have a world war anymore, or we don't have to fight, people dying.
That's a good point, because a lot of the steps that we've taken in the last few decades or maybe even longer is very reactionary. So I think this section about security is kind of a warning of, don't react, be proactive. Otherwise, yes, you'll be cleaning up, problems down the line.
I do feel the way to wake people up would be like something like even right now, there's not very much that surprises people. It's like, oh, you build a robot that can speak? No, okay, fine, that's fine. Like, it would have to be something like, so, I don't know if you've ever watched, remember The Watchmen? But not the movie, the comics, where they faked an alien attack so the world would come together, or like the villain did. I feel it would require that level of catastrophic or some crazy thing to bring people be like, wait a minute, we got to pay attention to this. Like, it's not just about AI girlfriends anymore. It's like, oh shoot, this stuff is like legit.
Right. It affects the daily life.
Yeah, it has to affect anything we talk about, and it's terrible because then you see like people like using it for stupid things and you're like,
He makes a good point, and I want to say this real briefly because I want to get Andy. I'd really love to hear your thoughts on all this. But he makes a really good point of saying that a huge misstep would be to believe that GPT-5, and enter name there, is somehow some version of GPT-4 or whatever that next step is. That is absolutely the wrong way to think about it. So it's tough because we only know what we know. We only know what our experiences are. And so there's a happy ignorance there that goes along with it. We go, wow, this AI stuff, this generative AI, as I was talking about yesterday at the client in Austin, is pretty amazing. And it can do this, this, and this. And so as a human, you go, okay, well, I reasonably understand that it can get better at writing. And that for any business or anybody who is limiting their beliefs of where this will go to that is a serious misstep, because forget about all the stuff he talks about the intelligence and the safety and stuff. If you're just a business today and you believe that in 3 years, in 2027, that somehow you will just have a smarter version of today's AI running around and impacting your business and your ROI, that is a misstep. That is a huge misstep. And so I just wanted to put that out there that I do agree with that. And that is absolutely the wrong way. And hopefully this show over all of our episodes over the years will help people realize that. But that is a misstep to believe that it's in some like traditional growth of it's this smart today, it'll be that smart tomorrow. We're talking about OOMs, orders of magnitude. And so things are going to leap quickly in 3 years, regardless of whether AGI happens or we define it as such or superintelligence. Forget about all that. Just where will we be in 3 years? And if you're running a business, that's a very short period of time. We're talking about 36 months of running a business.
I think like, so I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I showed somebody GPT-4o, like just the demo of when I was in France, we recorded the demo. I showed that person and I said, I need you to think about your business and I want you to think about what this means of something that has memory connected to your data, can see, can hear, you can speak to it in real time, but also take actions for you. And I was like, not to, think about like, what can you do with this thing? And it's like, the person was like, that can replace this. I was like, that's where you went. And I didn't prompt you at it. You just went there. So these has big implications of what's just coming out now of, yes, your business, but everything else. And I think it's just like the realization that you could do with that, because you could see that I was looking at her eye dilate and I could see like, wait a second. And it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I can do this. This is like, yes, I can do this.
Yeah.
Everybody will have access. Is like you can get access. I'll probably be getting this within a month, or I don't know, whenever they release this thing. And then every single tool will allow you to do this. They're not just every single company will enable this type of activity and more activities after that. So and I think but we need mass realization of that, just that alone, what that means for people. And I think but it's a hard thing because unless you actually show it and explain it in a way that's related to them, no one's going to get that. You can show them all the demos. It won't really matter, but it's like, well, wait a minute.
It's got to be,
yeah.
What's in it for me? Yep. Yeah. It's got to be like, how does this impact me and my job, whatever? And, okay, it's over there in art. Okay, well, that's not me. I don't do that. And you're like, yeah, it's running ravage through that industry.
Yes, I know.
That's my job. And you're like, it will be. If it's not there today, it will be,
Yeah.
So anyway. Yeah. Andy, you've been silent most of this time, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I was excited to hear all of the energetic discussion around the implications of what Leopold presented. Let me summarize what he did. So, as a good economist, he did a predictive analysis based on a predictive analysis of the advances in artificial intelligence based on three primary drivers. One, increases in physical compute capacity. Huge investments being made by multiple nations to drive the processing of AI. The second is algorithmic improvements. Think of that as the changes to the models, changes to the math, changes to approaches. And then more importantly, a third factor that he calls unhobbling. And I'm going to just describe that as, okay, right now we have hobbled AIs. They're kind of siloed in their own little areas, and they're focused on single tasks like generating text. Well, when you add memory to an AI and then give it chain of thought kind of reasoning capabilities, you provide it with persistence, that is the objective pursuit, like I'm going to persist in following all of the things that I have to do in order to get to a goal, and give it agency so that it can act in the world. And then you gang multiple models together. What you get to very quickly is a gang of models that can think through problems, use tools, try different approaches, do research, revise its work, coordinate with others, and complete big projects on their own. That combination of capabilities is AGI. That's artificial general intelligence. It's like imitating all the human capabilities that are currently offered by remote workers.
Mm-hmm.
So just plug in an AI that can do anything that a remote worker can do as a human. And but doing it with superhuman speed and mastery, that's artificial general intelligence. But what comes after that, because of the interconnection of these AGI capable systems, is this intelligence explosion. So now I just want to kind of close out, I think. I just want to read, this is from Leopold's actual language here. He says, superintelligence is AI systems vastly smarter than humans, capable of novel, creative, complicated behavior we can't begin to understand, perhaps even a small civilization of billions of AGIs. The power would be vast too. Applying superintelligence to R&D in fields like ML research, solving robotics, making dramatic leaps across other fields of science and technology within years, and an industrial explosion would be attendant to that. It would also, superintelligence, this explosion, like singularity is a term that's been used previously for this, thanks Beth, would likely provide a decisive military advantage and unfold untold powers of destruction. So it leads into what you guys have been discussing, which is the strategic importance of aligning that superintelligence with human objectives. And by the way, Leopold at Columbia, in addition to all of his academic pursuits, founded the Columbia Effective Altruism Student Group. So altruism is literally caring, right? This is a caring soul, brilliant mind, focused on steering advanced AI development and addressing long-term impact of that. Glad he's here. I'm going to follow him carefully now. I didn't really know much about him until this paper was released.
Yeah, he wasn't on my radar. I think he's on a lot of people's radar now, and hopefully he's on a lot of people's radar because he's, I don't say sounded an alarm. That sounds a lot. But I agree with you. There's so many different charts in here that he talks about orders of magnitude of where we're going. But one of them that really stuck out to me that I just want to talk about really quickly was his number of tokens. And so he comes up with a idea of assuming that a human thinking at roughly 100 tokens per minute and working 40 hours a week. In fact, let me just pull it up on the screen here. It's a really interesting chart because he's trying to give a clear vision of what we're talking about when we talk about the ability of like superintelligent compute power. So he's saying basically that at the top of the chart here, he says number of tokens, hundreds, equivalent to me working on something for, and in this case, a few minutes. And he's like, that's ChatGPT. We're here right now. That's the first thing he says. Then it goes to thousands, 10,000s, hundreds of thousands, millions of tokens. And as you work your way through this list, he tells you what that order of magnitude increase is. So if we go all the way to the bottom, he says millions of tokens is the equivalent of him working on something for multiple months. Now, the reason I want to bring this up is because I think this brings it back to what I would feel like I want to leave everybody with, because we do try to focus on the business. Yes, we can talk about security. Yes, we have a lot of other conversations on this, but ultimately what we've always hoped for is that business people are listening to this and going, okay, what is in it for me? Why should I care about this? And I think what I get out of reading this, among many, many other insights, is we're in a short period of time, what I feel is very likely to happen is, you talked about it, Andy, our context windows are very short. Right now, when you ask a ChatGPT to do something, it has more than likely no prior knowledge. It exists in that moment. It's a very smart high schooler, whatever label you want to put on it at that point. And that's sort of where it ends. And of course, we have chat windows and we can go back, but all of that gets very fuzzy, as he points out. We're moving quickly towards a place with business, and this is my main point to this, where if I was going to give a business one piece of advice today, I would say clean your house, get your data in order. But what even more important to that, I would say, is save all of your transcripts. Save all the conversations you're having. Even if you don't know what to do with it today, save it, label it, put data governance on it, all that house and order stuff as well. Here's my reasoning for it. Because if Leopold is predicting the very near future here, every business will not just be able to have a ChatGPT that can help them through today's problem and help them foresee or make a predicted future. It would be the equivalent of a ChatGPT or thousands of ChatGPTs going away for multiple months with all of your data from your company and then coming to you and saying, I've been thinking about this hard. Me and my 1,000 friends who are all smarter than a human have all collectively been thinking about this very hard. And this is what we've come up with based on your business or whatever, given that we have immediate context to everything that's happened. Now, you could consider that to be a great thing in your business, or you consider that to be a negative. I understand both sides of it. But if I'm a business, that's where I want people to focus is. You may not know what to do today, and I can't tell you for certainty what will happen. But I can tell you that if you are organizing and saving what you have today, the data in multiple multimodal, audio, video, visual, whatever, all of it, that's what you need. Because very soon there are going to be models capable of looking deep, months, years deep into that data and being able to assist businesses. That's how you will get ahead. That's, to me, how you will get ahead in business. Because guess what everybody else will be doing? Waiting for 2028 to come around or whatever that date is in the future. And they're going to say, oh, holy crap, did you know it could do this? We should start gathering our data. And the smart ones are going to say, we've been gathering our data and we are ready to launch with whatever that business is. That's how you protect yourself in the future of AI, in my opinion. That's what I get from this.
So we just want to acknowledge the people whose minds are blown, such as Cisco. Thank you very much. And we've got your back. We will continue to be talking about these subjects and doing the deep dives so that you can do the shallow dives with us.
Yes, we will definitely get into this more. I think Cisco also said maybe like a 3-part series or something like that, which I think would be super cool. Thank you for the feedback on that. Who knows? Maybe we will. Let's see what the feedback is and what the reception is to this particular show, and we can always pivot from there. Tomorrow, we actually do have an opportunity to bring up more of this, should we decide to, because it's our 2-week wrap-up show, or not wrap-up, that's the wrong word for it. It's a recap show, where we're talking about all the topics that came up over the last 2 weeks on our show, from our news shows to all the individual show topics along the way. It's always a great time because it sort of opens the floor to all sorts of different ways. And I always love hearing where people are like, you know what I want to talk about? This is on my mind. I'll try to keep this mostly tomorrow. But like all the different topics and where it's sort of come back into our lives. So it's always a really interesting show. And so come on back tomorrow to hear more. And of course, all next week where we'll have lots more AI topics along the way. So this has been the Daily AI Show. Make sure you go to thedailyishow.com, especially if you want to get on our newsletter list. This Sunday will be issue number 3. We are always putting additional information into the newsletter that you cannot get on the live show. So it's a great reason for you to go ahead and sign up. And of course, if you go to thedailyishow.com, you can get access to all our past, episodes and live episodes, and all the good stuff is there. There's links to all of it. So it's a one-stop shop for you. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks, guys, for the great conversation. And we will see you tomorrow for our 2-week wrap-up. Or not wrap-up. Why do I keep calling it a wrap-up show? All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Aloha.